Any given Sunday, a few days ago, we had an okay Sunday/Monday morning for most of us. Not the most electric of weeks, a lot of favorites. Some of us had another sport that took a lot of our bandwidth away, but still enjoyable nonetheless. And hey, a week is a week. We're getting closer and closer to the end. So let's get to the NFL stories. Then we will jump on to our league's results. Every year there's one weekend where NFL almost makes it like if you're gonna miss some of the games this week because you have to make Sunday plans at some point, maybe this is the one. And definitely this was the week. Now granted, I'm a little more distracted than normal. I might be following the World Series a little bit more closely than in other years, but still, it didn't really punish me for not maybe putting my complete focus in to week 8. I mean, the NFL didn't really give us much, mostly double-digit wins. I guess you could argue a couple upsets. I mean, certainly the Jets beating the Bengals was a surprise to most people, but if you really look at that game, I mean, Breece Hall just really showed that he might be their best option at QB, and I mean, Flacco just keeps looking like, honestly, like I played Madden before it got all AI. I had like 2 players I liked and only really knew 3 plays, so I just kept running those, and he seems to be doing fine, so maybe he is a phenomenal Madden player. You could also say the other game that was a bit of a surprise, Miami and Atlanta, but I mean, Atlanta, you were starting a quarterback in Cousins that plays kind of like he dresses, so maybe you really got to hope that Penix is coming back sooner than later. The fact that Miami scored points was, I guess, pretty shocking, especially for those who've had Miami people most of the year. That was a pleasant surprise, but everything else wasn't really a surprise. I mean, I'm not going to make a joke about the Giants not having nice things because I already made that joke a few weeks ago, and Scadaboo's ankles was gross. I'm not going to make light of that one. If you have not seen it, please don't watch it. I'm not even going to put something up. I'll put up something cuter that you don't have to watch, like that ankle. You know, when someone actually says, don't worry, he's okay, his shoe's just on backwards, that's not good. That was not his shoe. But I mean, aside from that, we just got some other stories that we've been talking about for the most part for the week after week, or something that kicks us back to a previous year. Like this is about the time every year that a running back is doing so well that they talk about shouldn't they be MVP, and that came up again this week, just like it did about this time last year with Saquon Barkley. We got angry about the tush push again, although crazy enough, the tush push is supposed to be this aggressive play, but who knew it was more of a millennial play where they want all the advantages but none of the disadvantages. So we want all the yards afterwards when we get shoved forward, but if we drop the ball, it shouldn't count. I want to redo. Aside from that, we don't really have a whole lot. I mean, Love beat Angry and Bearded, but that's not really that much of a surprise either. It would have been a bigger story if it went the other way. So again, I'm pretty happy with how things went for the most part, but the week was kind of a meh. So I guess if you won, you're probably happy. And if you watched a game or two, you're probably okay. But again, if you skipped it, you're probably not hurting yourself. I don't think we have the same thing coming up in week 9, though. We got some matchups I'm a lot more excited about. Although I'm still going to be distracted about the World Series, it looks like. But anyway, let's look at our scores first. I'll try and stay focused and not think about the Blue Jays, and then we'll get to Week 9. Paul with another pretty good week. Both teams going over predicted, but Paul even more so over Thielen Breezy. Benjamin here had that little unlucky piece when you go to bed and someone's supposed to play and you're international and it's super early at /1 in the morning, and then he suddenly plays, so that's not fun. He also had the running back 5 though in Harvey, so gotta be feeling good about that. And, of course, getting Wood as his tight end 2 on the week, so got to be happy there. Defense even doing okay in defense 4. And not having that many options on the side here, as opposed to Paul here, who had a pretty commando-y basement. Not a whole lot in it, except for Pittman. And Pittman would have been an upgrade. He was the wide receiver 5. Of course, he had Cook, which was more than enough, running back 2. And then just kind of a steady performance there out. I mean, that was one of the breakaway performances on the week. Obviously, a couple of running backs that put up more than enough, and that was enough to take it down. And not just take it down, but be our top scorer. I'm going to get onto the standings later on, but the amount you score is going to matter in the coming weeks. 2 teams with playoff on their mind. Kevin, you took the rough one on this one. Just over predicted, but not quite enough for EMC here. Andrew does come back and gets a big win, still keeping him in 3rd place. Now, how you did it with Baker not doing a whole lot of anything was a little bit of a mystery, but especially since Your other person that could have been a quarterback was a running back who only has 1 foot now, but we know where it comes from, where all your points tend to come from. Jonathan Taylor was the RB1 again, not just on the year, but on the week. And Rice, it was worth the time. He is the wide receiver 2, and we put those together and a few okay performances, you get a solid outcome start to bottom. You did have a few points on your bench, which we're going to see not everyone had. And if you look on this side, Keen is a true commando. A lot of Detroit lines there, not surprisingly, with his name, and a Ram or two. This was a rough week off the get-go, plus he had to start a Brown. We all know how that tends to go. Now, Justin Fields even made a way into his lineup, and Justin Fields did great, so who knew? The top 2 defenses weren't actually started, I believe, in Tampa Bay and Buffalo, unless I'm wrong, in which case I'll say so later. So while New England was the defense 3, it's the top one that we started. Gadsden's been a huge pickup at tight end. That's another great week. He was the tight end 3. And unfortunately, that's kind of where it stopped. And if you have a bagel, it is really tough to make up for it. Pretty much if you go for an offer, you're going to have a 30-plus performance like you had on the other side, and didn't really happen for you this week. Still top 5, though. Could be a lot worse. I was pretty happy with my week, but I do not think Joe can say the same thing. That's a rough one. And if we take a look, there's just not a whole lot going on. You had a huge amount of underperformances. Minnesota being so heavy there probably had a lot to do with it. I'd throw in San Francisco as well. And then even though they played an offense that everyone else seemed to pass off of, Caleb's not everyone. We always knew he was special, so he didn't really do much for you. But if you take a look, yowzers, this is a rough one for you. Between injuries and bye weeks, this was definitely me catching you at the right time. Not like my bench was lighting the world on fire, but at least I had something on the go. And pretty much for me, my QB1 in Love was the big heavy lifting, and then Barkley is RB3, and then wide receiver 4. Aside from Bo Nix, you pretty much were one of those people, or you just did not a whole lot of anything. So that was enough to get by and be overpredicted, and as of now, technically in the playoffs. When you think 1-2 matchup and you think over predicted, you're thinking these were the 2 teams in the 140s, 150s. Not quite, but this was a tight one, down to 1.3 differential. Jim hangs on, and we're going to see it could have gone either way. I think Jim's kind of claim here, Drake May's been a huge one for you this year. He's the quarterback 2 on the year. Made up for the fact that Rico Dowdle isn't getting the ball a whole lot. Of course, Vidal is, so that's quite nice. Egbuka with his worst, I think, non-injury related week. So you did weather the storm. On the flip side, you already CV what I'm going to say. Yes, you still hang on to our number 1 overall spot, so that's good. But Waddle would have done it for you. He was the wide receiver 3 on the week. You had the defense 5, the quarterback 4 if we go up to Herbert, and the running back 4 in Hall. Not Bijan like you would have expected. And the crazy thing as well is that's the wrong Denver running back to have. He was overpredicted, but the other guy was top 5. 2 teams just on the outside of playoffs looking in. So these were actually quite big weeks for both of you. Yes, technically still finishing 7 and 8, but we're going to see in a second. That does not put you far off. Throwing stones, you kind of threw a almost bagel, and now Pacheco got hurt. Of course, your Cleveland tight end was a tight end 5, so that's pretty good. You also had, I just scrolled over him here, Hurts as the quarterback 3, and you would have thought Dax would have done something a little more, but Denver's defense is proven to be pretty much what we thought it was, and even more than that. 2 running back potential injuries this week. That's no good. And both your defenses combined for a -3. That's got to suck, Jake. You actually would have done better had you just played nobody. But on the plus side, you did not play nobody in your tight end spot. That's Kraft. He was the tight end 1, and I think he took over tight end 1 spot overall. Taking a look at the bench, you did have the quarterback 5 on your bench, so that's how cocky you were. You knew you didn't have to throw it all out there. Who knew that having Cleveland tight ends was the thing? You got 2 of them and both did well. Yowzers, no wonder you lost on this one. Hey, like I said, every week's going to matter, so points scored, yes, but wins are wins, and we're going to see in a second they're going to start to add up. All right, like I said, 500 gets you in the playoffs, so the 3s and the 2s, you're only a couple games off. Now, we do only have a few weeks left of the regular season. I know it doesn't feel like that, but we do go to week 14, I believe. I can double check it, but I think it's 15, 16, 17 is our playoffs. So only a couple more. We're going into week 9, so you can count on your hands. Will, despite the loss, you hold on because of your overall top score. Well, not overall top score. You got a couple people down here that have outscored you, but you know what I mean. You beat the guy you're tied with, and that's all that matters. The 2, 5, and 3s, though, they're breathing right down your neck, so you're going to want to bounce back. Both of you are probably going to want to hold that game lead because if either one pop up, they might get you, although we'll see what happens after next week. Tied at 4-4 gets us in the playoffs, but not where we want to be because we got a bunch of people breathing down our necks. I keep saying it, points matter, but so do matchups. So taking a look, this is a huge one for you, Jake, and me. I want to hang on to my spot. You want to crack it down. Speaking of the team that wants to take top dog status, that's a pretty good team. Looking to have a pretty good week again against V. Not quite the same matchup for our number 2, but like I said, every matchup is going to matter. Taking a look, I know not everyone's adjusted their rosters yet, and Thursday was a rough one for some, and only really a good one for one, but you can figure all that out. Anywho, let's get into the outro. You may or may not have noticed that spot in the middle where I talk about football, I was a little bit more alive and a little bit more facial hairdy. Yes, that was recorded pre-today, therefore pre-Game 7. Now it's post-Game 7, so the life is drained out of my eyes. Apologies for that one. But you know what? Now I got fantasy football to be something I straight focus on. Of course, all the other football and hockey and all that stuff. But never mind, fantasy football. Week 9 upcoming. Only week 14 matters for our regular season. So let's get after it, and good luck this week, everybody.